So the lab assignment gives you the opportunity to practice what you learned. And you are going to come up with your own inner join. You're going to come up with your own left join, your own right join, your own full join. And probably the biggest problem people have with this assignment is they forget that in order to retrieve the data from multiple tables, you have to have that one column that is in both of the tables. And it does not matter to me which database you use or which table you use. So you can use any of them. The requirement is that you need to create the different types of joins. You need to have a column from each of the tables. So what we did in the textbook assignment is identical to what you have to do here. But in case you needed additional examples, I did go through and create some for each of these tasks. Now, I don't want you to key in my example because you need to come up with your own. Okay, so what you're going to do is, kind of label this up at the top, and then your name. And it does not matter to me what tables you use. Okay, so this is a kind of an opportunity for you guys to get familiar with the data in the tables. If you feel really comfortable with AP and examples, because we've been using those more, by all means, go ahead and use them. If you want to kind of explore the other ones, that's great too. I did quite a few examples using pubs just so you could see how it works with different tables. And so I'm going to go through and do a completely different example. And this is the type of thing you guys need to do. Okay, so here I've got terms, and terms ID is the key. So if I wanted to maybe retrieve the description from this table, and I wanted to retrieve something from another table, I actually have to look for terms ID in another table. And where might that be? I would guess it would be up here on invoices, and it is. Okay, so I can retrieve any column from invoices or multiple columns if I want. And so let's say I'm going to use AP. And what I want to do is I want to see the invoice number. And let's look at the invoice total. And then I want to look at the terms description. So I am retrieving from invoices, and I'm joining that table to the terms table. I'm joining on, okay, the column that is in common is terms ID. Okay, and because that column has the same name in both tables, I have to prefix it. So I'll say invoices.terms ID is equal to terms.terms ID. Okay, now let me run this and make sure it works. Okay, so I can see what the different terms are. Now, looking at the data, determine a filter that will limit the records, okay, or the rows. Records and rows are the same thing, okay, using the where clause. So, I need to add a little where clause in here. Let's say I only want to see the terms for invoices that are more than $100. So I'll say where invoice total is greater than 100. And let me see what that looks like. Now, how do I know that this where worked? If I look in the invoice total column, all of the numbers should be greater than 100. Okay, now, the problem is not asking for sorting. Oh, it is asking for sorting. I was going to say, I actually would like to sort this. So what I'm going to do is sort this, and it is asking us to sort. I'm going to sort this by the net due. Now, I could sort by invoice total. Okay, I can sort it however I want. So I can do an order by terms description. We'll see how that looks. So these are all due in 10 days, and we got 20 days. Okay, I can also sort by invoice total in descending order so I can see what the terms are for my large invoices. Okay, so that's my biggest invoice, and they have to pay that in 30 days. Okay, so that sort order makes a lot of sense to me, so this is the one I would use. Okay, so that's the example. Another example for the inner join. Okay, and then I move this down here. You guys need to come up with your own inner join. And like I said, I mean, you can look at anything you want. Okay, a lot of people like using vendors. Okay, and you've got vendors and terms that you could connect, or vendors and account number. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and walk through task 2 just so you get the hang of this. And I think you'll be able to do the rest on your own without any problem. The example that I put in here is using north winds, wanting to see what employees are living in which territories. Okay, and so I'm going to come up with a completely different one for this. And I might stick with AP. It might be interesting to see if all of our vendors, list all of our vendors, and then see which ones have terms or what the terms are. Although I think terms has to be filled in. So let's pick something else. All right, so we're going to try this one. We have vendors, and then up here we have contact updates. So we have a vendor ID and then the contact person. So I'm assuming that this would be an update that needs to eventually be applied to this vendors table. So what I'm going to do down here and label this task 2. And still using AP. Let me kind of shrink these guys down so we can kind of look at the 2 that we're focusing on. So it'd be useful to know the vendor name. Then I might want to see the current vendor contact. And I'm going to give that column an alias of current. And then I'm going to look at the new person, and we'll give that one an alias of new. All right, so vendor name and vendor contact name are coming from vendors. And I am joining vendors to contact updates. Joining it on vendors dot vendor ID equal to contact updates dot vendor ID. Now, I said I wanted to see all vendors. And so I need to do a left join on this. So I've got all of my vendors. I got my current contact, and I'm only going to see something in new if it exists up here in contact updates. And because it's showing me all my vendors, some of the entries for new are going to be null. Okay, so that is an example of a left join. Now, kind of moving on here, looking at the results set, filter the results to limit the rows displayed. So let's say I don't want to see all the vendors. I only want to see, let's see, we're going to have to limit our vendors. Why don't we limit it to vendors that are in California? So I'm going to put a where in here, where the vendor state is equal to CA. Okay, and I should have a lot fewer when I execute here. Yeah, it looks like we have a lot of vendors in California. Maybe that wasn't the best one. We could try. Let's try Michigan. We could do Michigan or what's another one we could use that might not have quite as many as California there? All right, but you kind of get the idea for the where clause. And then we need an order by. Actually, let me comment this out a second. I want to find a state that has a new contact. Maybe the only ones with new contacts are in California. Fresno's definitely California. All right, I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to right click on contacts, select the top 1000 rows, vendor IDs. No, that's not telling me what I need. So I'm going to add temporarily vendor city in here, or vendor state. So I can get this where clause the way I need it to look. New Jersey. Okay, that'll work. And let me take vendor state out of here. And we will remove the comment. And so we'll say Michigan or New Jersey. That works for me. Let's execute. Okay, so we got a couple new people now. So we got our where clause in here, and we got to change our sort order. And I think I'm going to order by the vendor name. Okay, so at this point, I am done with task number 2. Okay, so you will do something similar for your right join, full join, etc. Okay, and it's really a matter of kind of looking through these tables, figuring out ways they connect, and then retrieving the columns.